All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Thanks for tuning in. It's 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock came fast today. I admit I did sleep in a little bit, which is okay, but coffee is hot. Coffee crew is rolling in. Got a couple articles to talk about today, but before we get started and before we say good morning to everybody, thanks for everybody that's watching on the replay. The videos are getting more and more views, so that's maybe a little bit of good sign for the market too. We seem to be getting more subscribers on the channel, more viewers. So maybe that's a good sign of the future. And if you're watching on the replay, thanks so much. If you want to join us live, as you know, 8 o'clock Pacific time, we go live Monday to Friday. I've done a few little changes with the channel as well. A new banner on there, so you can check on and see that on the channel banner. We are doing live streams. Seems to be more and more on the channel, so we're going to keep up with that. Hopefully you can hear me all okay. Let me know if the sound is okay. My cat bumped the microphone yesterday, so hopefully it's loud enough. If it's not, leave me a comment and just say turn up that volume, and we'll see who's here for the. Excuse me, tongue-tied. Need coffee. We'll see who's here this morning. There we go, Candace. Always good to have you here. You're always the first. If I wonder if maybe tomorrow someone can beat Candace. We'll see. Always good to have you. And MC, good to have you. Missed you. Yeah, I don't know why your name is orange there and not doesn't show your initials. But anyways, MC, welcome. Good morning. Thanks for tuning in. Always good to have you here. Thanks again for those links and articles. Still have to read through all of them. Lots of reading in there, but do appreciate it. Always good. So if you're here, make sure you do say hi. Candace, I was waiting for the chat GPT. And that's the thing. That was actually one of the articles we're going to talk about today is ChatGPT. But I was disappointed. So I did have time, and it was actually working for me. So I have a terrible ChatGPT investment joke. So let's put this in the chat. So if I can do this here. So why? I guess I should pull that up on the stream. Why did the stock market go to the doctor? This is really bad. And because it had a case. Oh, I got to put it on the chat. Oops, there we go. Because it had a case of the fluctuations. That's just bad. That was what it popped up though. So that's what you get. Just terrible. Those are good. On the chat GPT, we'll get in that in a second, but good morning, Stan. Good to have you here. Thank you. Welcome. Good morning. Hopefully your coffee is hot, and we'll get right into the news, and it happens to be about chat GPT as we go here. Let make sure I have the right window open. There it is. Share that in. So we talked a little bit about it. There was rumors that Microsoft was planning to put a $10 billion investment into ChatGPT, and it looks like they are basically trying to beat out Amazon, Google. We all know they're working on AI. Apple, I'm going to assume, is working on AI as well. I can't see them not. They do. Well, they obviously do have the Siri, so they obviously are doing something with AI along that line. So they are Microsoft. Making a multi-billion dollar investment in the company behind it. I believe it's $10 billion. They've already, and I didn't know this, they actually already have invested in 2019. They invested $1 billion into it. So there's no shortage of investment going into OpenAI. Now, the obviously the tech giant, Microsoft done some layoffs. But again, I guess they see AI as something in the future. They plan to work it into Microsoft Office. I think the Bing we talked about a couple last week, and the Bing and what's Bing search, but it's might kind of give maybe Google a bit of run for the money with that investment. Could be, like they're saying, could be a win. We'll have to see how that pans out. It's pretty interesting. I've been following the chat GPT story a little bit on Twitter. Everybody on Twitter, at least that I follow, is talking about chat GPT and the things it can do. It's pretty amazing. And whether maybe it's the goal. It looks really fancy now because it was something we haven't seen before, but it's definitely been interesting project. And I mean, I've even started using it for some of my YouTube stuff. in terms of helping with some ideas, even ideas for videos. It's helped me with titles for my videos. It's helped me with descriptions. It's pretty amazing that way, and it takes a lot of for me especially. It saves you some time. That's the big thing for things, is it at least it gives you, if it's not perfect by any means, but it gives you a really good starting off point for certain things for that. So I saw a bit of an article like that, MC. It was I saw that they're trying to kind of bring them back in. I kind of glanced at the headline. I will admit I'll have to dig that up and maybe find that for tomorrow. But interesting, AI seems to be the buzzword of 2023, I guess. It took the number of users starting to use ChatGPT is just like exponential from people trying to do it. So good call here. On Twitter Spaces, I've heard from devs that developers that ChatGPT has made their jobs way more efficient. I always thought the future of AI would people becoming machine operators and doing Q&A. Yeah, there's a lot of it can do coding. It can. I'm not a coder. The wrong word is probably proofread, but fix errors and stuff in code. It's pretty interesting stuff, MC. And on that note, on Twitter Spaces, there's definitely some interesting Twitter Spaces for people. If you have Twitter, make sure you don't ignore those. There's a lot of very smart people out there for different whatever topics you're interested in, and probably will be a Twitter space for something you're interested in. I do listen to a few of them, and if they record them, it's great because you can just watch and listen to the recording. But it is nice to kind of, much like a live stream, it's nice to join it live and be able to listen. And some of them do allow you to actually go on and do speaking if you want to become a speaker as well. So it's pretty interesting stuff over on Twitter. It seems to move. Twitter always moves fast for the news. Good call. On your last video, you dropped a opening on ChatGPT and asked to make it more engaging. It did a good job. I kept the rewrite. Oh, okay. Yeah, I've done that before too, Candice. It's funny. I spent actually the weekend. I spent using ChatGPT on my other channel to rewrite and expand some of the rewrite the titles, and also rewrite some of the descriptions to hopefully help with the Google the YouTube algorithm, that kind of stuff. And it did a pretty good job. You can literally, if you're looking, like Candice, if you're looking for titles of YouTube videos, I mean, you can ask it, give me a title for X this video, but you can also say, give me 20 titles that are engaging for this, and you can literally drop in your whole description into that, and it will spit out. You can create 20 titles under 50 characters for based on this description, and it will give you them. It will list them out, and so it's a real good starting point. Sometimes they don't always, and it doesn't always going to fit necessarily with your video, but it gives you a good starting point, and sometimes you can kind of combine the two together, or that kind of two of the titles together to make one. So I spent the weekend doing that. We'll see. It hasn't. I mean, obviously you want more views. Obviously, it's kind of the idea for doing it, but pretty interesting. Maybe one day, ChatGPT or the OpenAI will be able to create a thumbnail or something from an engaging thumbnail from your video, somehow pulling the video from a still image from the video and adding whatever titles and graphics. That would be kind of cool, because the that's the one thing I think a lot of people don't realize with YouTube. Sometimes creating the title, the description, and the thumbnail for certain things. I keep my thumbnails on this channel fairly consistent, but that takes actually a lot of time, and sometimes actually more time than the video actually takes. Some of the big YouTube channels, if you listen to, like, say, Mr. Beast, we talked about, sometimes the thumbnails are done before they've actually done the video, but sometimes the thumbnails take longer to make than the title, and thumbnails take longer to produce than actually the video itself, which is crazy. Yeah, I saw that MC. I will definitely try and dig that up. Let me see if I can find it, and we'll see if we can find it here. Uh, let's see if I can find. News. Sorry, here as I search all this. Oh, Ars Technica has an article. Let's pull that up. Could call MC. There we go. So yeah, Google enlist. Let me take off the chat there. Google enlisting founders back in AI fight. So there we go. On Friday, New York Times reported it. That's where it found it. New York Times reported the Google founders. I could probably click this, but I think New York Times is paywalled. Emergency meeting of the company executives about OpenAI's new chatbot, which Google feels could threaten its $149 billion search business. There we go. There's the answer. We'll see more. I think that's probably the competitive space of 2023 is AI, and see what happens with all these companies bringing out. And yeah, I don't know Clubhouse. Sorry, MC, but I've heard of it, but I'm not on it or anything like that. But yeah, Twitter Space is interesting. The thing with Twitter Spaces too is, from my understanding, is Tesla earnings are tomorrow, and they're going to be, from what I heard, is doing it on Twitter Spaces as well. So I think that's the first time for that, but obviously makes sense. Tesla, Elon, Twitter, it kind of does all make sense. And MC, I haven't seen that one in particular. DALLE.E. I have seen some of the ones that do kind of digital art, that kind of stuff. It is pretty neat. You can literally type in, create whatever whatever your mind can think of. You type it in, and it spits you back an image that is in that genre or whatever you're looking at. Pretty interesting. I mean, we'll probably see it. This is the thing with, I mean, obviously I'm on YouTube, so there's a lot of YouTube. It seems like the algorithm always feeds you stuff you're interested in, right? But there's been a lot of videos created about YouTube videos that are created entirely with AI. So people are actually doing a video using using ChatGPT to write the script of the video, using AI to create the title and the description, using AI. There's also AI video programs where you can input your script to this website. It analyzes all the topics, things you're talking about, and it will actually pull stock video and create a full video from your dialogue, and it will also allow you to put in voiceovers, or you can actually put the dialogue, and it will use an AI voice to create the video. And I don't know, the thing with YouTube, I think YouTube is onto, obviously, because what this kind of screams a lot of times is spam, right? And people just churning out stuff for the sake of churning it out with no value. And I think YouTube is really going to be on top of videos like that, where there's all done by AI. I don't think it's going to necessarily feature them as much. So it's not. I mean, it's not something I've wanting to necessarily do. I like having my face in the camera, having a real person. I think YouTube appreciates having an actual person. But again, AI is getting better and better. So eventually, we might not even be able to tell. Hard to know. Good morning, Stan. Or sorry, it's not Stan. Paul. I'm sorry. My apologies. Good morning. Good to have you here. Hopefully your coffee's hot. Okay, good to know. So Clubhouse is did Twitter buy? Maybe did Twitter buy it or something? I'm not. I don't follow. I don't follow everything, but so it's what Twitter Spaces is based on. Maybe they scooped the idea. Audio rooms for voice discussions. It was an invite only when it first came out, which made it very desirable. Oh, okay, yeah, that's what a lot of kind of the new social media, apps and sites do, is they do it kind of invite only, so it kind of makes it like you're elite to get in there. There's a few photography ones like that I was part of as well, but This is the problem with too many social media things. It's just like you dilute yourself. You can't be everywhere. Like I have, I I mean I stick to the basics. I think for me it's because it's simpler. I have Twitter. I have YouTube. I would consider YouTube social media because I produce on it, right? But that's kind of it. I don't have Facebook. I don't go on Discord. I don't have. I mean Reddit. I will check out sometimes if it pops up as a search, but I'm not actively on there. That's all. That's all really. In Instagram, not so much. Too many ads, I find now, and I'm not on TikTok. So kind of like Twitter. You can find me. You can find me here, and you can find me on Twitter. That's kind of about it. Oh, okay. Spring 2020. Yeah, I have heard of it. I just not sure what it actually was. There's so many. It's hard to. There's always something new. It's hard to know what or not know, but hard to be everywhere at once. That's the one thing I find. Where Twitter, where Twitter I find is good because it's good, really good for news. It's very time. The time it's fast, so you can usually find information there a lot faster than articles would be posted on the on news sites. A lot of times you'll find it on Twitter first, which always it's always interesting. But again, you can also waste a lot of time there and scroll through and find stuff that you sucks your time away. So, but always interesting. What's out there, what's happening, and I guess looking for ways that we can with our TFSAs, looking for ways that we can benefit from this, right? Whether if it's the holdings that we have, it's always kind of good to stay on top of things. So if obviously more AI, are we going to need more microchips? Are we going to need more computers from computer companies? That kind of thing. The only real big one, again, we haven't really seen a lot from, and I was actually reading this morning. And it was actually on Twitter actually, and we're seeing all these layoffs right now in the tech side, right? Not surprising, but we still haven't heard. Apple hasn't done any. I could be complete from what I've seen so far. They haven't done any major layoffs. Now that I think the CEO took a pay cut, but I think he's still doing all right. He took a $50 million pay cut, so maybe that's more optics than that. But I think Apple generally is well positioned for any kind of downturns. They were quite well positioned back in with Steve Jobs, kind of during, when he came back, and there was issues with economy back then. They got a lot of cash, so they seem to do okay. And a lot of times I find that some of the best products from Apple seem to come out after there's a bit of a recession, bad time in economy where other companies are laying off people. I think Apple uses that almost to their advantage to double down on research development and be set to kind of come out of that ahead of other companies. We'll have to see if that continues on. And yeah, Microsoft does report after today. They have earnings today. Microsoft is today. There's some big ones coming up, I believe. Tesla tomorrow. So we'll have to see how it looks. That's always something to kind of interesting, always to watch, right? Yeah, that's the thing. They have always run a really lean. Lean. They've always not. I shouldn't say not always, but recently, right? More recently, they've had a lot of cash on hand. They generate a lot of cash, right, from their products, iPhones, app stores, that kind of thing. So they're positioned, I think, really positioned well. They're due for a new a new product, right? The last kind of major product that was out for them was the watch. I think it's pointing towards some type of AI, again back to AI, right? Sometime or like virtual reality kind of product of some kind, headset, VR, AI, that kind of thing. So we'll have to see what comes out to that. I could actually see I am an Apple user, so if they do something right, I could see myself possibly ditching the screen, and going to work and putting on some goggles, possibly. I don't know how that would all work, or does it just augment things with other? It would be handy with. I mean, it might be kind of weird streaming with goggles on, but it might. I don't know. Always interesting to see what is coming out on the radar, and we'll see it eventually, right? Whatever they're doing, maybe it doesn't work, and they go back to the drawing board. But we'll have to see with Apple. They're always very, very tight. You know, their products, they're always very secretive. I mean, there's people kind of have hunches on what they're doing, but until you actually see it, they're usually pretty good at keeping things under lock and key, so we don't actually get anything. Any leaks. So Candace is ready for a holodeck computer. Yeah, pretty interesting. I mean, Candace, I saw the one on the Meta one, a video on that. The hard part with seeing things like this is very hard to, it was MKBH, whatever his name is, I can't remember, but he did kind of a short video on it. But it's hard to obviously show what that is in a video without having it on your head and seeing what can actually do. But multiple monitors in the room set up. I mean, if you can put one set of goggles on and have multiple monitors for work, but probably would be quite beneficial. I sometimes would wish I have an extra. I have a fairly big monitor here in front of me, right? But it's not. Sometimes I don't have. I used to have 2 monitors, and I just don't have it set up with this computer, but it can be handy having different monitors, different spaces, and things that can make life easier. So we'll see I could see myself getting in that. It would depend on the price, though. That's going to be the big thing. But again, anything new comes out, it's always expensive, and then 1 or 2 years down the road, it's half the price. So could be something to possibly wait for. But I am kind of a techie and nerd, so it's interesting times, that's for sure. All right, so we do have another card article. We'll shift gears, and this ties into tomorrow. Obviously, tomorrow big day. Tomorrow big day. We kind of know what's coming with the Bank of Canada, but it's definitely going to hit. And here we are. So this one popped up, and this is what I found interesting, and it's just talking about housing investors, people buying homes to rent out or apartments to rent out, that kind of thing, and. Some investors are taking this sounds crazy to me, and I think what happened in Canada the last couple of years is people use debt to buy rental properties, right? They use their line of credit, which obviously interest rates gone up, payments are getting higher, but some investors are actually taking drastic measures to hang on to these houses, and I find it interesting because people seem to be treating their investments not as necessarily as an investment, but like as their own home, right? And you obviously don't want to sell your home for a loss or anything like that. And you want to, if you need shelter, you need shelter. Everybody needs to live somewhere, right? But people starting to put on high interest debt in order to cover their payments, which isn't a good thing. In hopes that there soon will be a cut, or housing prices will rebound, and they'll be able to obviously sell and not lose money. It's interesting. I think it doesn't make sense. I think a lot of people got into purchasing rental properties that as an investment, partly because people always think that home prices always just go up and up and up and up, right? And we're seeing that they don't. It's been a long time, but people were buying properties on speculation, right? Thinking they could rent it out, but even the rent doesn't. If the rent doesn't cover your mortgage payment, it's like it's a losing investment, right? If you're having to shell out money every month to cover your payment, does not make sense. And the people that I think they're putting, using a regular line of credit, maybe higher interest, or like a credit card advance would be the absolute worst thing you can do. But it seems to be people are doing it. Sometimes it's better to, I think, cut your losses if you're able to, and move on. But it's an interesting time. And so tomorrow, I think everybody that has any kind of mortgage, variable rate mortgage or line of credit, that kind of thing, can expect. I think Yeah, I think we're guaranteed with 25 basis points. Always the interesting thing, right, is Candace and everybody watching is the commentary that goes with it. Uh, we'll have to see what the stance what the stance is tomorrow. But I think 25 basis points is pretty much nailed down. Whether they continue, that's to be. We'll find that out. A lot of people are kind of saying this is probably there's going to be a bit of a pause after this to let things kind of work through the system. We'll have to see how that pans out. But I think we're into 25. That's my guess. If everybody else has a comment or thinks it's something different or agrees, let us know. Let me know in the comment. And Chad, thanks. Sounds great. I'm not sure what that was on, but always good. Thanks for having you here. And MC, yeah, inflation and rentals doesn't help, right? Well, inflation and rate increases don't help, right? Maintenance, everything's your maintenance and your rental has gone up 7.5% for 2023. And I'm going to assume you know what your increase is. I'm going to assume, I think a lot of people that have investment properties that have bought these things, mom and pop landlords don't even know how much they're actually, costs have gone up, and don't think about these costs when they're buying things, right? It's one thing to buy a house and think, okay, I've got a renter in there, the rent covers my mortgage payment, I'm good. But then all of a sudden, something happens with maintenance, the roof needs to be done, or the dishwasher or appliances break, or something happens, right? Inevitably with a home, there's always something breaking, right? Especially as things get a little bit older. I mean, when I had my place, it was constant. There was either like the dishwasher, then you have to, because when one breaks, then of course the next one breaks. So you have dishwasher, then the fridge goes. So you buy a new fridge, and then the stove goes, and then you have the washer and dryer to replace, and this cost, right? Then all of a sudden you have a leak, and you have to do something in the bathroom, and it's like never ending costs of things. And it's I remember having to replace my before I sold, I was fixing things, right? As you always do. And I had to get the fan in the bathroom replaced. And it wasn't one of the ones that a lot of them you can just plug in the ceiling. It wasn't one of those. It was all wired in, and they didn't have the right size. Where I was at Home Depot, I was looking for it. I was moving, didn't have time, and I had to get a electrician, like it was a bathroom company, to come in and do it. And to replace the fan, it ended up being like about $500 just for and this was back into 2020. This isn't recent, 2019, and it was it's expensive. Housing is expensive, so. Oh, okay, there you go. For the year, yeah, we haven't. We've always kind of we've always kind of just predicted what the next one's going to be, not down the road. So it's obviously nobody has a crystal ball, but yeah, I think that can. I don't think we're going to have the pivot. The pause is the pivot. I think they're going to try and keep it as high for as long as possible. Yeah, I'm with that. Oh, Chad, for your question. Yeah, they are doing voice. Yeah, you can. There is websites that can do that. Absolutely. Back to AI. There's websites you can plug in a dialogue text, and it will basically convert it to voice, which is crazy. That it can do these things. And there's AI, like I said, there's different AI voices you can choose. Some of them kind of sound like AI. I think if anybody's doing them professionally, if you have a script and dialogue, it's probably better to hire. Right now, probably better to hire someone to do a voiceover if you're doing that kind of thing, or do it yourself if you're wanting to talk on the microphone, if you don't want to show your face on YouTube. But ideally, you're cash flowing. That's right, cash flowing on a couple $100 a month, which builds up emergency fund to do repairs. But a lot of things, like a lot of people back when they purchased, obviously everybody knows the market was crazy the last couple of years. It slowed down this year, and you're cash flowing when your mortgage rate was less than 2%, and all of a sudden, if you're in a variable, and people picked variable, or didn't pick necessarily variable, were forced into variable because of qualifications, right? Because everybody wanted to buy more and more and more. You used to qualify more on a variable. But then maybe weren't on top. No, I mean, no one saw the rates increasing this much. Mitch, I think you could probably ask anybody, and I don't think anybody thought rates would go up this fast and this quickly this past year, unfortunately. But it happened, and it's actually surprising. I mean, this is the thing. It takes a long time to kind of work through this, work its way through. I mean, people that have variable mortgages, for example, or lines of credit, are feeling it already, but people obviously in other types of mortgages, if your mortgage isn't up for renewal, just picking on mortgages right now, and rentals and that kind of thing. If your mortgage isn't renewing, you're sleeping okay at night until that time that you have to renew, and obviously Canadians mostly take 5-year mortgage terms, right? There's probably a few people that took a 10-year mortgage term at one point in the past few years when the rates were probably, I'd have to look back and see what rates were like, but there's probably a few people that took a 10-year term and are laughing right now. But a lot of people mostly don't take 10-year. 5 years, kind of the Canadian thing. And then with cash flow, rates going up, that cash flow is going down. So I know people that have rentals that are feeding money into it every month, unfortunately. But that's the thing. And I have a acquaintance that is probably selling their rental because of the whole cost, right? It doesn't make sense. And this is the thing. If it's an investment and if it's not making you money, it's kind of like, why keep it? I did that yesterday with one of my penny stocks that I was not doing anything with, and sold it and just cut your losses and move on if you can get more opportunity somewhere else. So people, tough times, I think, for a lot of people, especially in the rental market, because rates have gone up so much, but your rent's not going up that much. Yeah, it's the same here. GTA is negative cash flow. It's the same. It would be the same in Vancouver. I mean, rents are expensive, but I think if anybody probably bought a rental in the last couple years that is on a variable mortgage, it's I'm gonna probably think you're not cash flowing right now, because it was very close before, right? Especially with I think you're right. Lots of people selling. I think when the spring comes, hard to say. And Paul made a mistake taking a 36-month term. I have to refinance my mortgage in March 20. See, by March 20, this is the hardest thing with mortgages. You can't as you're learning, right? You can't time these things. You can kind of get into the best product at the time, and I think probably at the time for you, I'm gonna guess the 36-month term made sense for whatever reason. It's not a bad, there's no kind of bad. It doesn't make not necessarily a mistake, but if you have to renew back in 2024, I think by 2024 will probably be. I don't know if we'll necessarily see a pivot, but I don't think rates. Hopefully, fingers crossed. I don't think rates are going. The crystal ball prediction, I think, on rates longer term like that is they'll probably have come down a little bit by by that time. We'll have to see, though. Obviously, the best thing you can do is obviously try and pay off as much as possible. So when you next pay off as much, so when you have to renew, you don't have as much to renew into. That always helps, right? Yeah, I think Toronto. I follow a few people MC in Twitter on Toronto. Obviously, my friend Rob is a mortgage broker in Ontario, so I hear from him as well too. And it seems like Toronto is getting bigger drops than like the BC.Y's for whatever reason. I think the prices there went up a lot more during the last, but not this past year, but the 2 years before. It's hard to know. That's the thing. I mean, housing in Canada has been resilient for a long time, but it's again, I mean, if you're talking to someone that bought in the last few years, Chad, and they have to sell now, they are taking a loss. That's not good. But if it's somebody that bought 15 years ago, and there's a lot of people that don't speculate on housing, right? They just buy it to live in it and stay there. They're still okay. Obviously you can look back a year and say I should have, would have, I should have sold or whatever. But you have to live somewhere. So if you're sold a year ago, a year and a half ago, you're having to buy as well, possibly, right? So hard to know what's going to happen. Yeah, outside in the suburbs, and it's the same. It's the same here. The suburbs of the Lower Mainland is definitely down. Not so much 2 hours. I mean, the suburbs don't get, well, on a bad traffic day. Yeah, you're out that far. But if you're in the Lower Mainland and you start heading out east, it takes you to Langley, Abbotsford, Chilliwack, Hope. Prices have come down in some of those areas because people were moving in that direction to be able. They were moving in that direction to be able to afford a house as prices went up, and so that's about an hour and a half an hour on a good day, but an hour and a half on a regular kind of day. It's prices we're seeing are coming down as well. But there's also not a lot of stuff on the market yet. I think there's maybe more that kind of selling happening in Toronto as right now as it is in the Lower Mainland. There's not a lot of not a ton of stuff on the market. People are hanging on. This shows people are hanging on to stuff, right? So, and same with the condo things. And again, I think it comes down to location for a lot of things and the product now. So people are taking their time, right? They're not like just buying anything because it's on the market. They're taking their time to look around, making sure you're getting into the right place, right? That's good. I think that's a good thing. And there you go. Yeah, the downtown and the cores always seem to do okay, right? And I mean, partly too, sellers, if they have to realize too that they won't get those prices like you said in your last comment. If your value today is 725,000, but it topped out at 780. If you put it on the market, wanted to sell it for 780. You have to be realistic, and it's not going to happen. So I think the sellers are kind of starting to realize that. But lots of jobs. That's the thing. Still lots of jobs in Canada. So we'll have to see how it goes in the future. And yeah, that was all the articles I had to share today. It's already, God, always love these conversations and what direction they go into. We haven't looked at. Let me pull it up. We haven't looked at our watch list today, so we might as well pull that up before we move on. And we've got the coffee crew. So if anybody is watching that has a stock or ETF, well, a bit of red out there today. We had a great day yesterday though, so that's always good. We'll take what we can get when we can get it. But if you have a stock or ETF that you're maybe watching, or these are basically some of the ones that the channel has not recommended, but just kind of have come up in conversation. Obviously, we don't recommend to buy anything, especially don't follow what I'm buying on. As again on YouTube, do your own. We say it always. It's like a broken record. Do your own research when you're doing your investing. If you need help, talk to a financial planner. But everybody I think knows that. And these are some of the ones we're watching. There's a good mix of stocks and ETFs in there so far. So if anybody has any ones that they want to add, you can just let us know in the comments. It's all good. I've had my. What is one there was a new one. I can't remember what it was. We can't add it. Was the Tesla yield? It's not in there yet. Some of the stocks ETFs, if they're new ETFs, they don't show up on Google Finance yet, but we'll get them added. So that's that. And that's exactly, MC, what a lot of people had done. Real estate, it shouldn't be meant for short term, but that's what people were doing, right? Buying, flipping, not necessarily even adding any value, just buying it and, put a coat of paint on and flip it. But people think it's easy money, right? But there's also this is the thing. There's also lots of costs that people don't realize. Even with flipping a home in a market that's increasing, you have real estate costs. You have in BC, you have there's property transfer tax costs, which are basically over 1%, and over 1% of the price, and it gets expensive for things, lawyers' fees, that kind of thing, right? It's not a great strategy. But again, there's also though people that have possibly bought stuff. I know people in construction, but that will buy houses, or building houses, that kind of thing, building spec houses. They're getting caught because people aren't buying, right? Or they're the cost, they're not getting their money out. So it's getting tough. Housing, I'm glad I'm not in. I don't have a mortgage. I don't own so anymore. I didn't get back in when I sold. So just happily renting right now. So it's like I don't have to necessarily worry too much about that, because it's kind of nice sometimes to be. It's sometimes nice to sometimes be a renter, especially if you're moving around a lot. Just my life has taken me in lots of weird, lots of places the last few years. So it's worked out to make sense. So yeah, it's in Toronto. It's land transfer. Yeah, it's expensive. It's expensive. It's expensive in British Columbia as well. It just depends on it. There's different basically like scales. So for in BC here, MC, it's I could probably, well, I'm just going to copy it, but it's 1% of the value up to and including 200,000. Then it's 2% between 200,000 and 2 million, and then anything over the 2 million is 3%. So it can add up. If you're a first time home buyer here, there's certain, it depends on the prices and stuff like that, but there can be exemptions and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's adding costs, that's for sure, to do any kind of property transfer. If you're buying, right? If you're selling, you're not paying. But if you're selling a investment type property, you're paying capital gains, right? So they get you somehow. So in Toronto, it's a one-time. But if you're buying a property in Toronto property, you have to pay the land transfer tax, and then they multiply it by 2. That sounds about right for for taxes. That's so crazy, so crazy. Yeah, they get you somehow. They always tax us. And that it is, MC. I won't disagree with that. Problem is, I think a lot of people over leverage, but they don't necessarily consider. Like, I think a lot of people, when they bought investment properties, if you're using your line of credit on your other home where you're owner occupied, where you're living, and you all of a sudden are maxing out your line of credit, and you're buying something else with the down payment using your line of credit, you're essentially 100 you're 100% financing that rental property. And I don't think people kind of broke it down as much as maybe they should, to realize that they are possibly over leverage on things. But yeah, it is a way to diversify. I think it's nothing wrong with owning a home if you can afford it. That's the problem, it's so expensive. But if you're using your home to build equity and not continually refinancing your home, and not tapping into the equity that you hopefully have, unless you need to, it can be a good nest egg for retirement, or whatever you want to consider to do it when the time does come, right? Yeah, at least it has been in the past. I don't think that will change. It's just, I think we're in for a bit of time when this is the thing. People treating real estate as a short-term investment. It doesn't work, as we're finding out. Get that rid of that. There we go. Yeah, that's true. That goes for everything. Everybody is a genius in anything. Well, that's the thing. If it's easy, right? You just throw money in and it goes up. It's the bull. It's the bear. It's like the market we have. It's like the market we have now. We have to kind of look and be a bit smarter with what we're doing. I know I've learned. Everybody, I think, learns. You learn the hard way, right? And you have to. I think I've talked about it. This year is the year of building, building my base, right, but being consistent as well. And I think we always come out of it. And it takes a bit of it definitely takes intelligence and strategy and perseverance to get out of to do this, right? Anybody that people always seem to panic, right? And maybe these people selling their homes are panicking and they maybe shouldn't. But again, everybody's situation is different. But talking with stocks and stuff, you see something go down, eventually they will hopefully go up if it's something that's a good investment, right? Yeah. Oh, so Chad just started. I essentially kind of started at the tail. I shouldn't say. We're obviously in a bear market now. I started at the tail end of the bull market with my TFSA. So, kudos to you for sticking it out, because it's tough. It's tough out there. It can be discouraging, right? Like that's the big thing. It's when you see your portfolio down. It can be, and that's what happens. A lot of people just get maybe overly discouraged, and don't carry on investing, because you can look at it now, and I can see it, because I've been consistent in the areas that I've been able to be consistent in, and it has been starting to increase. It's starting to pay off. But had I panicked and sold everything, I'd be worse off, right? So everything I can only speak for myself, Chad, and everybody else watching. Obviously, my portfolio is generally very long term, so I don't plan on selling anything. But if you always sell at the first sign of, you have to look at your long term goals, right? But kudos to you. Good to start. It's probably a good time. This is the thing. It's never a bad time to invest money, right? That's what everybody kind of says. Even if it's putting in $10 a week into something, it's never a bad time to invest for your future. It sounds cliche, right? Invest for your future and everything else, but it's never a bad time. It's really never a bad time. Especially if your outlook is long term for something. And we're not on this. On the channel, we're not traders or day traders. We're not trying to make money every day. It's the long term. So, well, that's the thing, right? Not to just panic, but if you're over leveraged in anything, you definitely sometimes have to sell, right? Like when when the margin gets called, when you need the money, and if you're over leveraged, it's not a good position to be in. I don't borrow to invest anything, so I never will. It scares the heck out of me, and I think if we're talking back to housing, even that would scare me. Using all of a sudden using a line of credit on a home to buy a rental property it's not my style. I'm fine to buy volatile speculative stocks and in ETFs, but I will not use any kind of leverage or credit to get them. I don't say that's I'm not smart enough for that. I would not be able to sleep at night, because I know if I'm putting something into my TFSA, I have my budget. I want to put that in. I know that if it for some reason goes down, I'm okay, because I'm okay with putting that money in there. Whereas if I had borrowed that money to put it in there, you got to start paying those bills too. Not going to happen. And that's exactly what it is. People wouldn't necessarily think about it that way, right? It's essentially that's what it is. Especially if you're borrowing for the down payment, yeah, it's leverage, and people wouldn't necessarily think of it that way. And it only gets hit when it's like anything. If you can put back when the interest rates were cheap, right? It maybe made more sense, because you could make it back somehow. But once these rates started skyrocketing, not the case. Yes, that's true. I don't either. So MC, I don't have any kind of leverage on any of my investments. People do use margin accounts. Although, I mean, the only thing really, I mean, in a round that does carry some leverage is I do have that Tesla yield stock, right? But the ETF is doing that for me. It's a small portion. So I mean, I wouldn't be able to. It's not something that I would be able to do. So I'm happily to let the ETF do that for me. But yeah, yeah, and borrowing for a down payment is it can be. I mean, this is the thing. There's policies and things in place to allow that. So if you qualify, you qualify. It's not for it's not for me. Everybody's different, right? Everybody has different risks and stuff. That's the big thing. And that's the thing. If you can't afford it, you're probably already leveraged, over leveraged. I think you're right on that. It's yeah, it can be people just over. Well, it was like bull market, right? People have that FOMO, and you don't want to be. I mean, we kind of talked about it at work, MC, a little bit, and houses were kind of like that hot potato game, right? Where you don't want to be the last person holding the hot potato when the margin when the doors of higher interest rates come knocking. You don't want to be the last one to hold that you know the potato. And that's kind of what it was. People were just moving, and it just didn't make sense. Yeah, you don't ideally want to be in debt, but I mean, there's obviously we talk. I mean, there's good debt, bad. I don't think no debt is necessary. There's good debt and bad debt, sure, but you don't want to have any. Ideally, you want to try and be as debt free as possible, and hopefully, and be able to invest something, right? Uh, and yeah, like a good debt is exactly normal mortgage for your primary home where you live, right? That's good. I mean, obviously, if you possibly need a car for a car loan, those rates are high. But again, car debt, people I think probably should look a bit more on what kind of cars they are buying, because if the car you're buying is way, you can look at those numbers that just don't make sense. I mean, I've looked at. I don't want a new car, but I always look at cars because I watch YouTube videos on cars and stuff like that, and there's ones you want, and then you start to build the price, right? And you're like, I'm not paying that. I don't need that truck that bad. I'll just drive my old 2016. So it's but again, if I needed a car, I'd have to probably finance it unless you it it's interesting on speaking of cars and good debt, bad debt, everything else. One of the people that I follow on Twitter is a car. He's what was it? I think it's called car. I think it was under car dealership guy that I followed, or it was might have been one of the investors. Anyways, can't remember. And they were mentioning that because loan payments are huge for some people. And the average, I think, this is in the States, but the average is about $700. And the tweet was basically essentially tell somebody to put $700 into the S&P a month, and they would think you're crazy, but they'll turn around and put $700 towards a car payment. So there you go. That's kind of that's debt in a thing. I think I would much rather try and put $700 into. Well, that's $700 US. So say $800 into the S&P every month. I think I would rather have that than a car payment. Yeah. And people just think the thing with cars is people don't bat an eye. You see these huge car payments. I mean, I was looking at these. I always go online because these ads show up, right? And I was looking at a new truck, and it's like the payment worked out to about $1,081 a month, and I thought that's just crazy. That doesn't make any sense. I'd rather put, $1,000 into. I'd rather put $1,000 into VFE every month on there. Would be better. I think you would be better off investing that way. But All right, there we go. Well, we're coming up at the end. This one always goes fast. MC, Chad, Candace, everybody that joined. I'm not going to hopefully forget it. We had quite a few people join in. Paul, always appreciate it. And I'm just going to scroll back here. Always good to have everybody that is joining in the live streams. It's always fun. We'll get these comments. We can go a bit longer today. I've got kind of a quiet day at work today, which is I guess okay. But so we can kind of we'll keep going. If people keep chatting, we'll keep chatting. That's for sure. But the scheduled thing is what I had to share is we're done. But let's carry on. So MC, I know you're talking about the EQ Bank card. The user experience is quite nice. It comes with a thin box, and you pull the lever at the bottom, and the card pops out. That was the same as the Wealthsimple one. Came in a little envelope. I haven't. It sounds terrible. I've got to find it because it was delivered to my address, my old address, and I have to go get it because I brought it home, but I can't remember where it's in one of my. I think it's in my because I was traveling. I think it's in my suitcase. I got to find it. I don't use it. I haven't activated it. So. But that's good. And an EQ Bank, I think they pay. What do they pay? Is it a cashback card? But they also pay pretty decent interest, I think, on there as well. Pipe in if I guess I can't remember what that is. Yeah, you could open a property management. Yeah, that's a lot of work though. Property management again is a lot of work. It's not easy. I could never be a property. I wouldn't. I don't want the hassle of having a rental property. When I owned a home, townhouse, that was enough because there's enough stuff going wrong and fixing. I couldn't imagine having to deal with a tenant. If you had good tenants, kudos. But sometimes if you get a bad tenant, it's not the greatest either. Much nicer. Yeah, it is. I remember the first time I got a Wealthsimple card was a nice little envelope. You opened it up and it was presented to you and everything else. So that's always kind of nice as opposed to getting one from the bank. Yeah, it's just kind of like stuck with some glue. Here's your card. Good luck. I don't know about 24 hours, but we'll see. 24 hour. I don't think I could do 24 hours. I'd have to order food. So it's EQ 2.5% interest on the balance on the card. Oh, that's good. That's good. I think we talked about MC. Maybe you weren't here. Maybe you were. If you do your payroll deposit into the cash account at Wealthsimple, it's 3% right now for a bonus. So kind of the same. I mean, I don't necessarily. We've talked about it before. I don't think it's worth chasing around setting up new accounts for a little bit of interest, but again, every little bit does add up. But it just depends what you're looking to do. It's nice to see that we're finally able to get a bit higher interest rates at different places as opposed to the past 10 years. This is the one benefit. And if you have some cash, like I know my friends and stuff that have bought GICs, looking at high interest savings account. So that's always nice to see. And that's the thing. So it's the same as their everyday savings account. That makes things simple. So you're not kind of having to worry about moving stuff around and that kind of thing. And yeah, exactly. That's the bonus thing. I'm not a fan of bonuses either. That's basically why I have I've mentioned before, I bank my day-to-day as CIBC just because it's been there forever. But they have a savings thing where if you have a saving, now I don't know what the savings rate is. I can't remember. I think if you have each month, if you increase your balance by a certain amount, like over the prior month's balance, you make like bonus interest. And I think it's around 2.5%, 2.4%, something like that. If you go over, but if you don't end up 1 month, if you don't put any more money into it, you don't get the bonus interest. It reverts back to the regular interest, which is terrible. But every bank kind of has their bonus. You're seeing a lot of that right now. Everybody's trying to bring people in to get deposits, and there's still a lot of times, with the bonuses, it's great. You get it for a certain period of time, but then all of a sudden, it reverts back. Or in my case with the account, if you don't put more into it, it reverts back, so you have to kind of keep on top of it. Everything else, I prefer to have it over I just have it in, I've switched it. I have my savings in Wealthsimple. Their saving account was only 1.5%. I've switched it into, they set up like a high interest savings account in my portfolio with on the invest side. So I've switched it over there, and so it's much like PSA. So it's about 4.5% ish. Oh, okay. So you still have a Simply account for checks. It's funny. I haven't written a check in so long. When's the last? Let us for people that are watching. Let us know when's the last time you wrote a check. For me, it's the only time I've ever needed it probably in the last 5 or 10 years. Like, I can't remember the last time I wrote a check. The last time I wrote a check was to write void on it, and I took a scan of it, and I still have. I think I still have the void check on my computer. I could actually find what number check it is. It's like number. It's from a long time ago. It's from an address way long ago. It's check number 29. So I must have written 28 checks in my life in probably the last 10 years, and the last one being a void check that I've kept ever since. And then now you can actually just get the void check from online. Used to not be able to do that. That's how long that check's been in there, in my scanned. But handy, yeah. I'm just trying to think the last time. Yeah, haven't wrote a check in ages. And Simply, I think, is free check. Yeah, free paper checks, which is good. You always kind of need them sometimes. I have my checkbook somewhere. My mom used to always give me crap because I would never balance my checkbook. When you used to get those checkbooks that you could write down, so you keep track of your own balance when you write all these checks. I'm like, Mom, I don't write checks that often. So MC doesn't for monthly maintenance. The pad forms. Yeah, they double charge fees, and I'd have to call the bank to reverse it every month. Yeah, I don't think I've had a pad. No, I haven't had any mistakes with pad forms, but I could see how that happens, right? Because it's just a click of a button, and then you get charged. Yeah. And then the problem is too, hopefully it doesn't put you in overdraft, because if all of a sudden, if you're just running an account that you think you'll have certain expenses from, and then they charge another pad, and there's no money in there, then you get dinged the NSF as well, right? Yeah, huge pain. So that's good. At least you can kind of know what's going out. Yeah, I don't think I should try. I don't even know it's funny who even takes. A lot of people don't even take checks anymore. You wouldn't think to do it. I always use, for the most time, my purchases. Like if I'm doing a larger purchase, like that kind of stuff, I'll put it on my card, credit card, because you'll get a bit of cash back that way. That's just how I do it. But a lot of times you can't. Obviously, for certain things, you can't use a credit card. Oh, so you're a builder. Chad's a build. Okay, so you build it yourself. Much cheaper to build your own. Yeah, I guess if you know what you're doing. Back in the '80s, my parents built. They didn't build it themselves. They had obviously a contractor do it and everything else. But the family house was built by, they were involved with it in the designing of it and all that kind of stuff. But I remember being taking a lot longer than you thought it would take for moving, because we had to live in not a motorhome, but like for a couple months in the summer we had to live in a friend's basement, and as a family, and then we had my parents had a travel trailer, so we had to live in the travel trailer for, I don't know, a month or so, a couple months in the summer, because the house wasn't ready. I remember that. But that was okay as a kid, because we got to live it was during, gosh, I'm going to date myself now. It was during 86. So it was Expo 86 in Vancouver. So there was a lot of visitors to the province and the city. And we stayed in a trailer park that was built for Expo. So you'd have, as a kid, a lot of people coming to travel and stuff. So as a kid, it was great, because there's always like new kids coming. So there's lots of stuff to do. And the trailer park had like an arcade, had a swimming pool. It was the best. It was the best summer. And when you're I don't know how old I was, 10 years old. You don't really care where you're staying as much for the summer. It was like a vacation. Yeah, people don't even want cash. I'm surprised by that. You would think like they would cut you a deal if you, but of course you need invoices. You do need invoices if you have it as a rental, because you have to write it off as an expense, right? But maybe for something you can't write off, then I'm sure contractors would still take some cash, but probably e-transfers because it's easier for them too. It's like cash for them, I guess. And Chad in Saskatchewan, so welcome. Most of the people I think on the channel that come in are Ontario and British Columbia, but there we go, Saskatchewan. I've only been there once, and I don't know what the housing costs are there. There we go. All right, everybody. Well, it's after 9. It is time for me to get to work. We've gone overtime. I do really appreciate it on the channel. It's always it's growing. We get more and more as we can check the stats. We get more and more people coming every day. It's always nice to have the new visitors. If you are new and you haven't said hey yet, subscribe, say hi. It's a good group of people. We always get to talk about our investing. I've learned a ton on these live streams from everybody that joins, and it's always appreciated. I've learned a lot, even with the comments on the videos. So if you are watching and you're new or you're not new, head back and check out some of the past videos. I did share a video over the weekend, if you haven't seen already, on my portfolio. I shared that over the weekend, so you can see the latest update. And moving forward, I will have an update by tomorrow. I like to do on midweek as well, so I will get into that and get that posted. And we were talking yesterday about YouTube videos and first videos. So I challenged everybody. I said this when Candace was watching. I said I'm going to hunt back and go back and find her first video, because everybody's first videos are terrible, as always. And I hunted that one down, and it was good. It didn't disappoint, Candace. Glad you've kept it posted, because it's neat to see how far you've come. So my challenge to everybody, go back to the channel and watch one of my old videos, because they sometimes be pretty bad. But it was interesting because I went back and actually watched, like, when I did my first update on how the portfolio is doing, and it's neat to see, even though it's down, right? It's in the red. That's what it was, and it's nice to go back, even just to look at where you started out, and in terms of the balance, right? And because if I wasn't doing these videos and these challenges and being diligent on doing regular investments, the account would be zero. So it's nice to see it's nice to see it growing slowly but surely, and hopefully your portfolios are ours too. So, and you bought today, good for you. Yeah. Oh, so you won't buy today? Won't buy in the green? Bought some new stocks, so okay, cool. Yeah, I did watch it. It was good. It was good. Keep it up there. That's always. I should go back to my other channel and watch it. Some of the first videos were just terrible too. But you just learn. Each one gets better. So there we go. Oh, so you bought ACT. Okay, cool. Anyways, that's it, everybody. I should get going. I do have to get to work. So thanks so much for watching. Go back, watch one of those old videos, and you can leave a comment. It'd be appreciated. We'll catch you all in tomorrow's. We'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow's big day. Bank of Canada bank rate announcement, and we'll be back to talk about that, because it will be announced, and we'll be able to kind of dig into that and what the commentary is that on tomorrow's stream. So we'll get that posted up. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. We'll catch you all in the next one.